Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish, where you guys learn all the things it takes to really get out and be visible in the author coaching speaking world. Another great guest today. I know I always say that, but it really is every time. But before we get started with our guest, I want to remind you guys to go over to YouTube and follow us over there on our channel, Superbrand Publishing. And also, you're on here. There must be something you like. Look, Dom's taking a picture already. There must be something you like about this. So go like it, subscribe it, and leave us a review. Tell people all about it. I love that Dom's taking pictures. So our guest today is Dom Faussette. And Dom is a military veteran who loves to take pictures, obviously, and a prior police officer with 10 years of experience in corporate leadership. He is the CEO of ThinkReactLead. You probably figured that out from his background there. And ThinkReactLead is a company dedicated to pushing people past their limiting beliefs by bridging the gap between their mind and heart for increased success. So welcome, Dom.
Thank you. Thank you. I greatly appreciate you bringing me on. It's a pleasure. I'm excited to get this ball rolling.
Good. We actually had just a dry run where I forgot to turn on the camera. So hopefully this is a little bit better. I actually met Dom and his wife. They're members of the of Aaron Young's Inner Circle. And we got to sit at the same table a couple weeks ago. And he brought his dog, who's just amazing. And I won't have you retell the story, but his dog is in doggy jail right now.
He is. Toretto. He's in jail right now.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how it brought you to what you're doing today, because it's so interconnected.
You know, a lot of people talk about the background, and I'm going to bring that up, but I think I'm here where I'm at today because of my background and my foreground, right? Having a vision and knowing what your purpose to do is extremely important. But my background is both my parents, I'm going to go back before I was an adult. Both my parents were prior military. And I grew up in an environment that was pretty tough for today's standards. I call it the 80s, growing up. But my mom was a drill instructor. My dad was intel. So there was just certain standards that we were forced to have in the household. And, growing up, it was tough at home, but it was tough love. And then once I got into school, it was just tough. I grew up in an environment where you say the wrong thing, you can end up dead. You could end up with some loose teeth right before algebra class. You just go on about your business. But that prepped me for the world, right? It prepped me for working for what I want, working for what I have, and not expecting people to hand things to me and not getting my feelings hurt when somebody tells me no as a grown man. Anyways, I jumped into the military, Air Force, and my plan was to be pararescue combat controller, which is special forces. But my last swim test, I failed by 7 seconds. And that 7 seconds, I think, changed my life. It took me about 10, 12 years to get over that failure. I ended up being K-9 in the military. And when I got out, I jumped into law enforcement because it wasn't about serving or protecting. I just wanted to carry a gun. And that was like the only civilian job that I could have where I would be considered a tough guy. But there's so much more than the uniform and the badge that a lot of men and women hide behind or their titling. And I thought I was tough then, but it wasn't until I got out and had to address things like PTSD 10 years later. You kind of missed the boat on that one. But I was in the corporate space, and I was probably about 7 years into the corporate space. And I was doing well for myself. And I found myself sleeping in my closet. Nice house, like everything was good on the outside. But at night I would come home and I'd have my Benelli shotgun with me in my closet, my Glock 26 under my pillow. And every single night I'd sleep in my closet. And I was afraid of my own shadow. And it wasn't until I started getting some professional help that I realized, oh, this is PTSD. Got it. I thought I just liked sleeping on the floor because it's quiet in here. And these are the things that we tell ourselves. And whether you're a veteran or not, everybody has a thing that brings them to the line. And what I realized as I got into the coaching practice is that I found a way to get past the line, right? Obliterating obstacles. And it helped me. It started with increasing my confidence. And it started with understanding what I was capable of and not taking everything personal. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That is amazing. So, inside of your business, I know you help speakers, you help a lot of different people. What sets you apart from everyone else who's out there?
I'd say there's a couple things that set me apart, um, and the primary thing that got me here was I found myself kicking in doors and serving warrants. Um, Intel would tell me there's three people inside, and I figured I'd go by myself. And as a cop, I did a lot by myself because that's one report I have to concern myself with. But you kick in a door, and it's no longer three; there's six people, and you don't have the luxury of, life's not a video game. You can't press pause. You can't say, hey guys, why don't you guys just hang out here? Yeah, go ahead and leave all the weed, all the guns, and just leave everything out. I'll be right back with some more adequate assistance. Like, that's not an option. And it's under, I had to understand my position. I had to understand what my obstacles were, and I had to understand what my next move was going to be, like in a millisecond. And utilizing that skill set in my coaching space, like, I don't know any coaches personally that have have faced death like that, and engaging. And if you just look at society as a whole, most people struggle with making decisions. That's one thing I've never struggled with, was decision making. So what sets me apart is everything that I coach on, I'm currently doing. I wasn't doing it 20 years ago, and I'm not planning to do it 20 years from now, coaching on it now. I'm a little tough as a coach. I'm an executive coach. That's kind of how I got into the business. But I'd say it's what I bring to the table. It's the last 20 years of living that, getting deployed and having a bomb dog and doing presidential supports and kicking in doors, like I said. But then being in a place where the toughest thing I've ever had to deal with was accepting Dom, like understanding my emotions. Loving myself was probably the toughest thing that I've ever been faced with in my life. So that, back to your original question, what sets me apart is having run the gambit probably more than I needed to, and then coming out on the other side and knowing that it's totally cool to love somebody else, starting with yourself.
And there's a couple great nuggets in there I want to talk about for a minute. When you're in the business space or even in your personal space, you mentioned people have a hard time making a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Not making a decision is making a decision. And a lot of people don't acknowledge that in their lives. They're putting something off. So that's what I love about the think and react is you have to be solid about that.
It's for me, I look at it as life and death. Um, Growing up, I wasn't allowed, starting at the age of 11, I was not allowed to use the words "I don't know" in any of my conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't use it now, right? It's when I talk to somebody and they give me the "I'll get back to you," calling them to the carpet in that moment, male or female, it doesn't matter. Getting them to understand what that means in their world. And what does "I'll get back to you," like, what other areas in your life are you saying "I'll get back to you"? One of the examples I use and I implement in my daily life is when my eyes open up, I get up. So if my eyes open, if I go to bed at 11:30 at night, but my eyes open up at 3:15, I get out of bed.
Yeah.
And the reason I get out of bed is for a couple reasons. One, my body wants to do a thing. I don't know what that thing is. I won't know until maybe I step outside, get some fresh air, get on the ground, do 10 push-ups just to get the blood flowing. But that's my body's way of waking up. And there's been a couple times you look at a grown man breathe his last breath, you start to appreciate life in a completely different sense. And I've never met anybody that their body gets up at 4 a.m, their alarm's set for 6, and they sit there from 4 to 6 waiting for the alarm to go off. And then they just end up more tired through the day. So that for me is a decision. My body's made the decision for me. Now, mentally, what am I going to do? Am I going to think and react, lead in this moment, or am I going to try to fight sleep? No, I'm going to freaking get up and I'm going to start my day, whatever my body decides to do so. So I don't have my clients do this, but I implore them to start making simple decisions, void of emotion. And there's a thing that guys do a lot, and I've never been a woman, so I can't say that they do it. You might be able to
I'll tell you. Let me hear it.
We know what we should do in a moment for our wife. and our body says do it, but then 3 seconds later, our emotions kick in from something that happened 7 years ago, and then we don't do the thing that's going to add value to our wife. And we do it over and over, and then now we feel that it's right. And we disconnect in our relationships. And it starts at home. I tell leadership all the time, if you can't lead from home, you have no business leading a company. Get things right at home with your spouse and your kids. Like I have executives that, well, my employees don't like me. That's because your kids don't like you. Okay. Build a relationship with your kids. It will transition over to a better relationship with your employees.
Uh-huh. That's interesting. On the thinking bit, Tracy Hazard, my partner on the Monday marketing, we actually had a big thing this Monday night about those people who think about it for a year. You follow up, you call them, they're like, yeah, I know I need it. I'm still thinking. And that thinking doesn't translate into action.
Right.
How do you combat that with someone? I mean, as if that's someone, then that you're in that mode. What do you do? Because I don't relate to it. If I think it, I'm like all over it, which is maybe a bad thing too. No.
So fortunately, because of my background and because of my social media presence and the way I'm perceived, it allows me to call people out. So if somebody tells me, matter of fact, had a guy yesterday, I want to know more about this command presence thing. All right, cool. Here's a link. This is how much it costs. Have a 30-minute conversation with me. Okay, let me get back to you. I said, and I just told him, that's not what that means. You either are going to or you're not going to, but we're not going to do this back and forth. But I'm like that in person. So it's not me being fake. And I'm doing it from a compassionate space. This guy is an executive. He has a family. And it's like this. If you hit snooze on your alarm, like you go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, and you're like, I'm motivated. I'm going to get up at 6 in the morning. Your alarm goes off at 6, but you sleep in. What other areas in your life are you hitting snooze on?
Right.
So I grew up in an environment where getting called out it was life-saving. And I don't know another way. And I'm using the phrase call people out, but I'm really bringing things to their attention. And I'm telling them the things that nobody is ever telling them, because most people that I coach, they're the, and I'm going to air quotes on this one if you're listening, they're the alpha male in their environment. So everybody is afraid to go against or go against the grain conversationally. And their spouses don't say anything, male or female. So I'm their drill instructor. Mm-hmm. But I don't talk on anything that I've never done myself.
That's awesome. That is really, and I love that calling out. One of the things that happened in my realm as a child was we weren't allowed to say I can't. Mm-hmm. It was always positioned back as you can't or you won't. And oh my God, that is so painful, because then you have to, really look at it and say, oh, well, I guess the truth is I won't.
It hurts to say that.
Yeah, it's kind of ugly when you actually have that, that sort of confronting, which is it? And I know that pushed a lot with me, because it's like, okay, if I say I won't, then what does that mean for me and my growth? So I mean, you didn't actually say that as a child, but I think as an adult, if you'd looked back, you would have been, yeah, that was my response. Only it manifested itself in other ways.
Of course.
So action, how do you get those people to take that action when they come to you? What kinds of techniques do you use to get them to, you talked about baby steps with that.
It's, there's a goal where, I'm glad you brought that up. I have and I'll just pull it up while we're talking, but action, I think people overthink action. There's the things that they think that they want to do, and then there's the things that they need to do. And a lot of times this falls in lines with goal setting, and most people don't set goals. They do things, and I'm pulling up my iPad because what I'm about to talk about is in here, but they do things based off of what they feel is owed to them. For example, you have a long day at work, not you, but somebody has a long day at work, and they feel they have the right to come home and sit their butt down and watch TV. Yet they complain about the job that they have, or they complain about the clients that they have. And we don't have the right, like TV is a luxury, right? We complain every year we get fatter. And I'm just saying we to be nice.
I was going to say, speak for yourself, dude.
Yeah, you and I aren't, but people in the world are. And what happens is they end up blaming, and a lot of my clients are married, they end up blaming their spouse for their lack of results.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't get over things. That is the problem. So it really starts with goal setting. And I'm going to pull something up, and I'm just going to run through it. There's this 9-step process, and I learned it in the military. Most of the stuff that I use, tactics I use, are from paramilitary or even military. So we pick the goal, and then we write down 10 benefits of accomplishing this goal.
Ooh.
Number 3, write down 5 reasons this goal has yet to be accomplished. So now you're calling your own self to the carpet. Number 4, write down the names of people that will benefit from your accomplishment of this goal. Number 5, pick 3 people that you are going to share your goal with, and these people should and will hold you accountable. 5, write down 4 things that could potentially get in the way of you accomplishing this goal. So when you're setting a mission, you look at, okay, do I go through the window? Do I go through the attic? Do I kick in the front door? Right? If I kick in the front door, I might potentially get shot at. Yes, I'll go through the kitchen window because there's less people in there. Like there's all these things that go through when you're about to serve a warrant or complete a mission. Number 7, write down 3 non-negotiables that you will implement in order to guarantee you will accomplish your goal. Most people don't realize that for every one goal, you should have a crap load, maybe 3 to 4 non-negotiables. People don't have non-negotiables. So if I want to lose weight, well, I love pizza, I love ice cream. Not together, but in the same day, definitely. If I want to lose weight, my non-negotiables are I'm not going to eat pizza. 1, I'm not going to eat ice cream. 2, third one is I'm going to go to the gym, say 4 times a week. Mm-hmm. Right? If I haven't started going to the gym, I'll start with 3 to 4 days a week. I'll pick a number, 4 days a week. And those are my non-negotiables, right? A non-negotiable that we have that society's put on us, when you get to a red light, you stop. Like it's not a negotiable to drive through the red light. Why? Because you risk dying. Well, that's what not hitting your goals are. Like you may not physically die, but internally you're going to feel dead. Number 8, write down 2 ways you will reward yourself once you accomplish this goal. Most of us, especially people that are dialed in like us, we have already accomplished the goal 70% into it. So by the time we accomplish the goal, we're 30% into another project, and we've never acknowledged or celebrated the win. And that's how you become drained. Yeah. You're like, oh, and then other people have to tell you, Dom, I saw your radio show. Congratulations. Dom, I saw you on Fox. Like, oh, you know what? It's just part of the things we have to do to move the needle forward. And then number 9, write down 1 date this goal will be accomplished. So I had to learn early on that I'm not a drill instructor, and I can't just tell people it's easy. Suck it up. Don't be a pansy. Embrace the suck. Like those things don't work, especially via a Zoom call. So I had to formulate something that somebody can see their own reasons for getting in their own way and have a master list of things they can look at. And then people stop idea generating. Because like, oh, I have all these goals. If you use these 9 steps for 1 goal, you'll get rid of half of your goals because you're going to realize the work.
That is so true, because that is the one thing when people come into our company, I would say 25% of them, their messaging is muddled because they have so many things they want to do and they can't decide on which is it I'm going to focus. It's almost like they have FOMO. Well, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. I love the book, Big Magic, and the name of the woman's just gone out of my head, but I love that. Are you looking it up for me?
I was trying to, but my computer, I got this whole screen.
She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And what I love about that book is that she talks about when you get an idea, if you don't act on it, it will move on to the next person.
Oh, definitely.
So you'll be the guy who invented Facebook before Facebook came out. Or even a better example, there's that new program out, the Messiah. Do you know how many people I've heard say, oh, that was my idea? but they never acted on it. So,
Right.
that's for me, that's why that focus that you do is so important, because if you get out there and you're not focused, that idea is going to move on to the next person.
Oh, it totally is. And it can happen in 24 to 48 hours. It's not 90 days later.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really, really good. So, how do you how do you know you need someone like you? What's going on with the typical client that comes in your door where they're like, "Yes, I have to do this." Do they have to hit rock bottom in some way with something?
No, I'm not a good rock bottom coach. Most people that hit rock bottom, by the time they get a coach, it's their first coach. If somebody hits rock bottom, and I'm coming from a law enforcement perspective, so I don't know, but when I hear rock bottom, I think everything in their life is like nothing's
Oh,
going well. You need to see, seek a professional help, a shrink,
right.
psychiatrist. That'd be a good, because I was at rock bottom at one point in time, and no coach was going to help me.
Right.
But I'm the guy people come to when they've hired a coach that wasn't either wasn't the same person online as they are in their coaching practice, or they just couldn't get the results. I'm definitely not a good first coach. But when I have found that, as I've slowly but surely involved my wife in my social media over the last two years, even though I'm a speaker coach and an executive coach, more of my clients come to me because of what they see my wife and I have.
Mm.
And they say they want a relationship like that. And I'm like, no, you don't. Because at the end of the day,
I love your wife. Don't say that.
they don't want a relationship. They don't want a relationship with their spouse like this. If they did, they would know what to do. Because, okay, look at it like this. Guy goes into a bar. He sees, or any establishment, let's just use bar. And he sees a woman that he's attracted to. He'll stand there. Maybe he's naturally impatient. Maybe he's naturally curt, or he's a jerk. In that moment, all of those things, all of those negative traits, go out the window. Why? Because he knows what he has to do to get to the end game. She could be talking about how she got a music scholarship and she plays trombone. Most guys don't care about that. But he'll listen, and then we get married 5 years into it. Now we don't listen. We don't respond to text messages, right? Quickly. We treat our boss greater than we treat our spouse. I guarantee you, if you treated your spouse as good as you treat your boss, you wouldn't have any relationship issue. You kiss your boss's butt every day you go to work. Smile when you don't want to. Do what you're told because you have to, because there's money attached to it. And then there's your ego or fake pride attached to it. But then you go home and and this is male and female, and you're none of those things. So when I tell people, one, you don't want it. What do you think it is that you want? Well, you guys seem so happy. Well, no, we are happy. But guess what? I don't get my panties in a bunch if she says something that rubs me the wrong way. My wife's a little tough.
Your wife is way tough.
Yes. And she'll call me out. Like the other day, so my wife's not a social media person. I help people with branding. My wife, she calls me out on branding. And it in a moment, I had to, like, we were driving and she said that, and I said, Dom, don't say anything. Because my first response was, who is she to call me? You don't know anything about branding. I was just quiet. But then I realized, you know what? She's my ideal client.
Uh-huh.
And more oftentimes than not, you're going to learn more from your spouse, more about you that comes out of their mouth than you're going to learn about yourself, what comes out of your mouth.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes we don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah. That's kind of like the can't and won't.
It's exactly like the can't.
Yeah, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it. So tell us something about you that nobody knows. Kind of fun.
Yeah, something kind of
and
fun.
keep it clean. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's see here. So I wouldn't say no. I live on social media, so I wouldn't say nobody knows. I love to skateboard.
Really? At your age?
Yeah, I have four skateboards. I'm into it, but not. I do downhill longboarding, but something that nobody. Oh, here's one. When milliseconds that I used before I would kick in the door, and right as I kicked in the door or pushed the door in, there were. It's a very euphoric experience. Not going to bore you with the details, but any given moment, there were one of two songs. This is something nobody knows. One of two
songs that went through your head?
That went through my head.
Okay.
One was, there's a Wizard of Oz song, and it escapes me right now. I forgot the name of the song. I haven't kicked on a door in years. And the other one was Mamas Don't Let You, I don't know the title, but
Mama Don't Let Your Babies Become Cowboys.
Yeah, grow up to be a cowboy.
Yeah,
that song, because I was in the South, right as I would run up on run towards the porch and take my first step, that song, like, adrenaline slows everything down. And that song in its cadence matched my adrenaline cadence as my environment slowed down. From the outside, obviously, I'm moving at a high rate of speed, but that song flowed through and through when I was engaging suspects, like at that high level of law enforcement. So, yeah, I've never told anybody that.
Interesting. I'll have to figure out what it is from the Wizard of Oz. Mama, don't let you, I grew up in a hick town, so that song went to.
It wasn't the Wizard of Oz. It was The Sound of Music. The Hills Are Alive.
The Hills Are Alive.
Yep.
With the sound of Griswolds.
right, exactly. That is, I don't know why that song. Certain things I don't question. That was one of them.
Wow, that is so crazy. But it is scary when you're doing something like that. It doesn't surprise me. When I used to repo houses.
Okay.
Like 2008, 2009, when everybody's losing their houses. And I would always end up in there's a neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley. I'd always get the same two cops. And, they were always like, it was scary going in, and then they'd come out and they'd be laughing. And they would play jokes on me, actually, not very funny jokes either.
Funny to us.
Well, I was funny to you guys. Like they had just passed this law in California about if somebody left pets, the realtor, and you foreclosed, the realtor had to take possession of them. So they came out one time and they told me there was like a 15-foot boa in there. And I was like, and they just cracked up. They're like, if we could, you could have seen the look on your face, Juliet. But I kind of got that was almost for them, it was almost a kind of tension release.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. That they'd come out like it was, they didn't know what they were going to find when they went in, when we had a lockdown or a lockout. Right. But when they came out, it was always definitely funny. So
always jokes and fun. And it's not scary to us. It's just, your goal is to always come back home and touch your doorknob. That's something I used to tell myself every shift. I just want to touch my doorknob. But while you're in the streets, you it could be your last day, but you're going to have a hoorah of a time while you're doing it.
That sounds so fun. So this has been fabulous. Do you have something you want to give away to us?
Yes, I'm an author, and I have a book called Think, React, Lead When Success and Accomplishments Aren't Enough. I recently finally put together an e-copy of the book, so I will send you the link.
Okay.
I don't have the cool text quiz too, 64600, but
you can.
yes, I can. You're absolutely correct. So I'll send you a link for that. So if anybody wants it, they can reach out to you, or if you want it, you can DM me on Instagram at Dom Faussette, or there's so many ways to contact people these days, and it's on my website, domfaussette.com.
Okay, so Faussette is Faussett. If you guys want to, it's not like faucet, like you get water out of. So,
right.
Dom Faussette at DM you at Instagram, or go over to your website, Facebook, anywhere.
You know what? I take that back. The free copy is not on my website. I don't have anything free on my website. So just DM me. I'll send it to you.
Okay, we'll do that. Or we'll get him a quiz. No.
That's an option.
All right. Thank you so much. Of course, you're always so much fun, and I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you, ma'am.